We're going to be passing out life jackets. These are the same as the ones that you were shown how to use this morning, so I hope you're paying attention to that one, and then we'll wait for Gary's instructions if we have to head into the water. Now, last little health and safety feature on this vessel are our little seasick bag on the wall to your right hand side. So if you're feeling a little bit seasick, you can pull one of these down, open it up inside, and you'll know what to do next. It will come to you. But just as we're out here on our reef, we look down below on our left-hand side here. We've got lots of our beautiful little corals and some of our little tropical fish we're starting to see as well. So the real benefit to coming out and doing the semi-submarine tour this afternoon is you're getting to see some different environments, some different habitats on our reef than just that snorkel area that you guys have been experiencing today. So the coral reef out here, it's not just one big environment that's all the same, but a whole lot of different little ones that have different conditions, different species, different sort of shapes to the bottom, to the seafloor there, creating all these different little environments. So where we are now, essentially, is right next to our snorkel area. So our snorkel area is in a really good spot. It's right in the middle of our patch reef where there's this big sort of lagoon, so it's sheltered from all sides. Now on the opposite side of the reef to where we are right now, there's this big steep drop off. It's like a 22-meter wall of coral. It's just drops straight away down to the ocean floor, and that's exposed to that open ocean that's further out to sea. So that's the side of the reef that receives all of the weather, all of those big cyclones, big storm events, and of course the constant wind and waves. We have a little hawksbill sea turtle just down on that right hand side on the bottom, and we can see it picking away between the corals back there. It'll be looking for some little sea sponges. So the hawksbill sea turtles, they're pretty neat. They are critically endangered, but the predators out here are not too interested in eating our hawksbill sea turtles because their flesh and their tissues are actually toxic. And that's because they're going to be cruising around the reef, eating, finding those little sponges, and they actually absorb the toxins of the sea sponges that they're going to be eating. But again, opposite to us is that side of the reef that's going to receive all of the elements and all the weather, whereas where we are right now, essentially we have all of the reef between us and that open ocean. So it's a really nice little sheltered area, particularly for some of our more delicate corals. So we've got all this beautiful coral that's blowing around underneath us here. Looks like long grass or a bunch of noodles. It's actually some of our spaghetti coral, and it's a soft coral, but it likes growing in these sheltered little areas where it's not disturbed too much by the elements. And similar to that as well, we got all this beautiful branching coral around us as well. And some of these species we won't really find in too many other spots on our patch reef here because it's too rough for it elsewhere. But right here, again, a nice little sheltered space for it on our reef flat. Now again, I mentioned we got all that soft coral sort of billowing around in the current below us at the moment. Our spaghetti coral, actually all of the corals that we're looking at today, they can be put into two different major groups. So we've got our hard corals and our... Now those hard corals are going to be doing something really amazing, which is pulling lots of calcium out of the water and lots of carbon out of the water, sticking it together to make calcium carbonate or limestone. So they're literally building their little skeletons out of solid rock. It gives them a lot of protection and allows them to form those structures that they can continue building up on top of. Now those soft corals on the other hand that we've been seeing, they're a lot lazier. They're not going to bother doing any of that limestone stuff. Essentially they just fill their little tentacles with water, let them blow around in the current and absorb little bits of food that way. Now just on that left hand side we've got these black fish with the white tails, and if you have a little look at their faces, they've got these funny little noses on them as well. So they've almost got like a little horn on the front of their head that pokes out in front of them. Those are some of our unicorn fish, so no prizes for guessing their name, but those unicorn fish, it's a pretty big species group out here on the reef, quite closely related to surgeon fish. So these two fish mounds. Now these areas we don't really see too many other corals growing over the top of all that material, and essentially those corals get broken off of the reef and then they end up all piling over on top of each other on this side. But it's not a really nice place for other corals to settle on because the water moves around them. And this encourages all sorts of differences in the sea life that we'll find out here. So tropical environments, often that water at the very top, very warm and doesn't have that much nutrients in it. The really nutrient-rich water that has tons of food is that colder water that's much deeper below. So when we get these little structures here, our bommies that just stick up from the bottom like a little irregularity, essentially that current that's a little bit lower it's going to hit the side of them, get pushed up over the top, and it causes a lot of upwelling, brings all that colder, more nutrient. You guys just look down to the right hand side there, we've got a couple of little diagonal banded sweet lips. These are the black and white fish with the beautiful bright yellow fins. And we've got this big school of a couple of different species. So all these little fusiliers, the smaller fish hanging around, and also those larger red bass back and picking up those little bits of food that come along. As you get a little bit closer to our other bommy here, that's just on our left hand side, you can see all these beautiful little aquamarine or turquoise coloured fish as well. They're our little blue-green chromy damselfish. I'll be talking a little bit more about them later. And then we're back into this big, beautiful school of all those fusiliers and these larger fish below us here too, which are a closer look at those red bass, which you guys might have seen during that feeding presentation as well. So these are those beautiful big fish that have that nice powdery blue or grey colour to them. And if you guys look closely, you can see they've got these big yellow eyes. The blues and the greys, those dull colours when they're a little bit deeper in the water, helps them to blend into the coral. So you guys might have seen during that fish feeding, those red bass when they're all at the top, and that beautiful bright red colour, as we saw just cruising past them, they have those more dull colours that again, going to help them blend it in a little bit better too. So again, all of the water that's passed over the top of this reef from the other side, it's gone past a lot of coral and fish already, so it's had a lot of the food taken out from it. So most of the fish that we're going to be seeing here are species of fish that either are eating the coral itself or eating little patches of algae on some of the dead coral. Whereas most of the fish we were looking at just before, again, they're taking advantage of that food coming in from the open ocean. Now you got a couple of those unicorn fish again, just floating around on that right hand side, so keep your eyes peeled for them, see if you can see their little horn on the front. Again, they're black in colour, they sort of have that white tail on them. In the meantime, we're seeing also tons of these little fish that are only about an inch or two long. Yellow, which are little lemon damselfish, and essentially we're seeing tons of these different little species of the smaller fish, because this is the second largest or second most diverse fish group out here on our reef. There's 400 species of damselfish in the world, and 170 of them live here on the Great Barrier Reef. So I won't point them all out to you guys because we'll miss our boat back to Cairns. It sort of gives you an idea of the diversity of that species group, just how many different types that we're seeing at the moment. That's a really good sign too when we see lots of damselfish, because it means they're a little bit of a bio-indicator that can tell us a little bit about the health of the reef. Essentially, they're really picky about where they lay their eggs and raise. So if you see lots of damselfish around, it means that there's plenty of healthy coral around for them to lay their eggs on. Now seeing some beautiful bright blue patches of some of that hard coral at the moment. So this coral in particular is branching coral. Again, they look like little trees or little tree branches sticking up from the bottom. Really nice areas of them on that right hand side, bright blue. And that coral is one of our major groups of our hard corals. So some of the fastest growing coral on the reef, growing 15 to 30 centimeters wider over the course of a year. But right here on the right hand side, that big yellow lumpy one, that's one of our big boulder corals. And in contrast, that's going to be one of the slowest growing corals on the reef. So our boulder corals, they're the ones that look like just little lumpy rocks sticking up off the bottom, all sorts of different pastel colors. But they can grow as slow as only 1 centimeter wider over the course of an entire year. So when we see bigger boulder corals like that one a little bit earlier, they're a couple of meters across, they can easily be between 1 and 200 years old. So we get some pretty amazingly old growing corals out here on our reef. And some of our boulder corals are even more like 4 or 5 meters, making them 400 to 500 years old instead. So those are two of our major groups of hard corals, the branching corals and the plating corals, in the boulder corals, sorry, but we also have in there our plating corals. These are the ones that look like big discs coming off of the reef, the big flat round ones. When they're a little bit smaller, we call them plating corals, but as they get a little bit larger, a meter or two across, change that name and start to call them table corals instead. And at this point, they provide really good habitats for some of our larger fish, particularly some of those larger predators that like to hide out beneath them, get a little bit of shelter, and also protection from even bigger predators. They're all herbivorous fish. When they roam about in groups like that, often they can be made up of multiple different species, and we call them grazing herbivores as they go along the reef there. But again, below all of this coral that we're seeing here as Great Barrier Reef number 5, there's those 4 different layers of extinct reef that have been here in the past between those different ice age events. And we can see that the slope quite quickly drops away into much deeper ocean. So again, as those different reefs that come here and